Hi, everybody, and welcome to Breaking Through Your Brick Walls. This is an interview series that I dreamt about, and it's where you just get to meet successful business owners, receive like a little glimpse of life behind the scenes, and they're going to give you some gold nuggets and some sage advice. This is where we hang out to be authentic, and we just share a piece of real life with you. Today, my guest is Lisa Eaton. I'm so excited to have her here with me. She's a mindset strategist and a sales coach who helps high-performing, heart-centered female entrepreneurs learn how to make more sales with more confidence by helping them understand the root causes for their sales fear, upgrade their sales mindset, and implement smart sales strategy that also feels and sounds like them. Lisa's also formally trained as a psychotherapist and is the owner of Lisa Eaton Consulting and Coaching, a virtual coaching and therapy practice. You can find her hanging out in her high vibe virtual community right here on Facebook, The Sales Savvy and Successful Entrepreneur, which happens to be where I met her. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. This conversation is so needed. So any opportunity I can have to have it, I'm in.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I left out. My name is Pamela Lewerenz, the Brick Wall Coach. Hopefully most of you know that by now because you're on my business page.
Yes.
But I'm a business consultant that works with overwhelmed, stressed, and discouraged solopreneurs to create actionable plans for their success and to help them stay focused on all those things there are to do with running a business.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. All right. So we have been waiting to have this conversation because of course, it didn't want to work out with us for Tuesday. Tech gods be with us.
Yes. And everything is working out perfectly. So we were meant to do this on Friday.
Yay. Yay. So why don't you just start out with telling a little bit about you, the face behind your business?
Yes. No, thank you for that introduction. And again, thank you for inviting me to be here. So I really have been in the online space it will be almost 4 years at the end of August, which is crazy to me because it's gone by slow and it's gone by fast. I'll just say that too. And I originally did not plan on getting into the online space. I didn't set out to do that. I actually was trained as a therapist, started a private practice, a brick and mortar private practice, owned that for several years. And I really just got to the point, the work I was doing with those therapy clients, really I wanted to reach a broader platform. I had a lot of clients coming in at that time who really were convinced they were clinically anxious or clinically depressed or had some really serious problems. And while we know clinical anxiety and depression is really a real thing that affects a lot of people, a lot of my clients weren't actually depressed or anxious. They were just unhappy in their relationships or unhappy in their careers or not feeling very confident or not living out their values or not really tuned into their needs. And so I was doing a lot of more coaching work and realizing that there was really a need for that. And I wanted to be able to reach a bigger platform. And I just wanted more freedom, right? There's a lot of, and for good reason, there's a lot of restrictions and rules when you do therapy. And I wanted to be able to have real talk and talk about the things people are dealing with around confidence and happiness. Yeah. And so I really, like a lot of the rest of us, stumbled into the online world by accident. And it was like, oh, like this was where I was meant to be.
Yep.
And the rest is history.
So what was that like going from brick and mortar over to the online space?
Yeah, so it was not easy, right? So I found this space. I loved the idea of being able to move into the coaching space and again, do more thriving work, right? Because when you do therapy, it's really getting people up to baseline. But I really like this idea of beyond baseline, helping people really thrive. And so I was really excited. And I met a lot of other therapists turned coaches, and I really just started to grow my own tribe. But I really struggled to translate my like real personality into the online space, right? That was one of the biggest challenges I had in the beginning and for a long time. So I would say in the beginning and for a while there through, because I had come from such a very formal, polished, very clear boundaries career, right, as a therapist. And I had worked in academia for a while. So it was very hard for me to like drop down that persona and just show up real online. Not that I was trying to be fake or someone that I wasn't. It was just hard to understand, okay, I do swear. I do tell zingy jokes. I have a sarcastic sense of humor, but I just couldn't translate that into the online space because I was so used to being this polished, kind of perfect professional, which is really what you're groomed to be as a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
So it was a
even
struggle.
so when you're in a lot of 9 to 5 type of jobs even. So
Yeah.
if you're in an office setting, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very polished
Yeah.
professional persona that you have to
Yes,
have.
for sure.
And I know that is exactly what I struggled with when I came here, because coming from that, coming from, just be an elected official to use the
Mm-hmm.
online language and
Mm-hmm.
and kind of morph yourself into the online
Mm-hmm.
space. It takes it takes a little
Mm-hmm.
while. It takes a
It
little
does.
while.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, it took a while, and it took a lot of stumbles and
Yeah.
falls and getting back up again and continuing to hang in there. I invested in coaching. That was very helpful for me. And I also just decided to not see the steps along the way as a failure, right? So
Right.
each time things weren't working, each time I was struggling, it was less about, oh, I'm failing, and more about, okay, how can I use this to gather data, to learn, to understand how to continue to tweak and to adjust. And I know that was incredibly helpful
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me to manage that piece.
Using that as a learning tool, because that's really
Mhm.
what it is. I mean, it's each
Mhm.
step that you take. You're not going to be, oh, it's a successful step.
Mhm.
This was awesome. I mean,
Mhm.
it's
Yes.
great when it is, but there's so many times when it's not. And then you have to go back and think, okay, how can I tweak this? Or how can
Yes.
I change this? Or, is this even what I'm looking for? Do I need to
Yes.
just totally trash it and move on to something else? Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
really in the online space, it's so easy to get
Oh,
sucked into, wow, I must be doing something wrong because these people over here who are therapists turned coaches are making, 100K in 10 minutes,
yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
they're having really fast success. What are they doing that I'm not, right? Or what do
Yeah.
they have that I'm not? So it was definitely, I had to really walk my talk with my own mindset work,
Yeah.
right? To manage that this was not a failure in me. This was not something that was wrong with me, right?
Yeah.
It was just continuing to really find my voice, right? And
Yeah.
practice translating that and just letting myself be in the process with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is great, because that leads me into my next question of, can you just kind of explain that sales mindset piece of what you do
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
how that can be such an effective strategy for business owners?
Absolutely, yes. And so, for those who maybe know me or have followed me for any period of time, you've heard me say that selling is a skill, right? I firmly believe that it's the process that I take my clients through, that the act of selling is just like learning how to play the flute or learning how to cook or learning how to drive a motorcycle, right? It is a skill that just like those things, right, you have to be in practice around, you have to be comfortable not being good at in the beginning, right? But even beyond the like practical or the strategy pieces, you have to really cultivate a sales mindset, right? Otherwise, the skills, the actual strategy are going to fall flat because either you're not executing on them or you're not believing, right, that they're going to work. And so I do a lot of work behind the scenes with my clients. And in fact, I joke that the strategy, the sales strategy, the sales skills is like the smallest part of the work that I do with my clients, because really what we're doing behind the scenes is really helping them cultivate a sales mindset, right, where they are feeling sold on themselves, right? And sold on what they're offering and sold on the work that they do. So whether they're selling products or services, helping my clients get really, really sold on what they are selling first and foremost. And then really just looking at selling differently, right? That it doesn't have to be this pushy, salesy, sleazy endeavor, that it really gets to be an act of service, right? And something that you need to do, right, in order to have a business and not just an expensive hobby. And then to get really comfortable with talking about money and making money, right? So what we know about selling, even though I very firmly believe selling is serving, and I work with a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs around showing up in service and how that translates to selling and vice versa. But we also know that it is about making money, and we're never going to pretend like it's not, right? So if you're making more sales, you are making more money, you are having more money, and we have to get really comfortable with that as part of this process. So I really work on several pillars around the sales mindset stuff, because that, again, I see that as even more important than the actual skill strategy part of selling.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. And that is a lot of what drew me to your group to begin with, to you and your group. And that is probably the best thing that I could have learned if I could only say, oh, I'm walking away with one thing, which of course I'm not. I have millions of gold nuggets you share all the time.
Thank you.
Is that mentality of the sales mindset, and that it's something that's learned like anything else.
Yeah.
You have to be schooled on it. You have to be taught about it. It's not that it's changing me from saying, oh, I can't do sales to, a different attitude. And it's hard because people hear the word sales and I think they automatically think of like the person who called me again last night from the local newspaper. And she starts off with, how are you tonight? And I'm calling from. And the minute they say that, I mean, there's been so many times that I've said, no, I'm not interested. No, I'm not interested. But they keep calling. So I said to her last night, I know why you're calling. I'm still not interested. And I'm very sorry. I hope you're doing well. But I'm not going to have this conversation, and I hang up before they can go on. So I think that's like a huge piece of what stops people. They're either way too pushy or they're just way too holding back. There has to be that happy balance.
Yeah, and we can't help people get to that more middle balance through skills and strategy alone, right? There has to be an internal shift in how we view selling, right? And really a lot of it is that taking your power back piece, right? Where you're kind of like what you said, we don't get to say we're not salespeople or we don't have the sales personality because, again, anyone can sell, right? Anyone can learn how to sell. And the key too is figuring out what is your version of selling, right? Which is a big part of what I do in my one-on-one work with my clients is, okay, if that doesn't feel good to you, that's fine. Let's figure out what is your selling voice. What does it sound like when you close a deal, right? What does it sound like when you explore objections, right? And it's really about helping people cultivate their own selling style so that it feels good and they show up and they do it, but so that they actually can feel really good about the act of selling and understand that it is an unnegotiable thing you got to do in your business, right?
Well, yes, unless it's a hobby.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if you want to make sales and make a profit, then you have to sell. You have to sell.
And most of us don't have the option of hiring giant sales teams either, right? Your business needs you to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes, for a large part, I know of my audience, these are solopreneurs, so they can't have these huge teams behind them, and they have to do that themselves. And do you really want to put your sales for your business in someone else's hands?
Absolutely.
I mean, really, that's the work you kind of have to keep for yourself. People can help you with different marketing techniques, but the sales calls themselves, really, you're doing the work, so you should be the one on the sales call,
Yeah, and even if people do get to the point where they do have a sales team, because I know that there are really high level coaches that may employ a team. The goal is to have your team reflect your style of doing selling, and you can actually translate that to your team if you haven't figured out and practice your own style, right? So for anyone in your audience who may be thinking about having a sales team or know that they want one in the future, it doesn't mean, right, you get to get a pass on learning how to sell, because in order to cultivate a team that really reflects your brand,
Right.
you have to really get good at selling
your voice.
first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great. All right. So how about if you share with us some of these struggles that you had with growing your own business? This is
Yeah.
where it gets super real.
Juicy. Well, and I love that, like, you have even initiated this conversation, or you dreamt up this conversation, like you said in the beginning, because I feel like the pendulum can swing really far, right? Meaning everywhere we look, there's some glossy marketing, right, about people's quick success stories. And I'm not shaming that or judging that, because I think there's value in being able to show everyone what's possible. And right. And there's definitely times in my business where I'm saying, hey, I'm really proud of this, or I'm really excited to share with you this. And I want my clients to do the same, because it does get to reflect to others what is possible. And it's good to really own your win. It is, right? Again, we want to get really comfortable making more income and having more income and talking about our income, right? So I'm all for that. But I think that the pendulum can swing really far, where everywhere we look, that's all we're seeing. And if we're not making 100K in 10 minutes, or if we haven't gone to six figures in a year, then we think something is wrong with us, right?
What's wrong with us? How come we're not doing that? Exactly.
Yes. Or if we're having challenges, it can feel like, oh my God, what's our problem, right? So again, I love being able to say, hey, like, I am making multiple six figures. My business is really thriving, but it wasn't always that way, right? And I've been through my own series of challenges. So the first one that, and I kind of shared a little bit about this already, was really just translating myself online. That was my first and biggest challenge always in the online space, is just knowing how to really bring my own voice forward, right? And I've shared about that. So one of the other challenges I have that I don't always share about, and I think sometimes people are surprised to hear this, is that I hated selling too. And I was not good at selling either, right? I definitely went through a season when I first started in my brick and mortar private practice, where I rented office space, I had business cards made, and I had my shingle on. I was like, okay, the clients are going to knock down my door. I'm open for business, right?
Where are they? I'm waiting.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. And I learned very quickly, I smartened up very quickly, that just because you have a website, just because you have four walls and a roof, does not mean that you're going to start rolling in the clients. And I really had my own mindset blocks around selling, right? So prior to that, when I had worked in the nonprofit space, I avoided fundraisers like the plague, because I didn't want to ask people for money. I remember as a kid, I didn't want to sell Girl Scout cookies because I didn't want to be pushy or salesy, right? So my own sales noise stretched all the way back to like middle school. And so I really struggled for a while to book clients, to really grow my private practice, because I was very avoidant of having those conversations. But what helped me overcome that is I just decided, right? I decided that, like, okay, this practice isn't going to grow if I'm not available to market myself, have sales conversations, set my rates, talk about that with potential clients. And really, I can see the beauty of it now, because we always connect the dots backwards, not forwards, right?
No.
But in that space, I couldn't be pushy. I couldn't be bait and switchy. I couldn't be salesy in the traditional way, because at that point, that's all I knew selling was, right? I thought about it like a lot of us think about it, like I have to use the used car salesman strategies. I have to use some of the stuff that I hear when people call me and try to sell me a newspaper subscription, right?
Yeah.
But I was dealing with vulnerable people who were in pain, people who were desperate to get help. I couldn't use those sales tactics. So I had to really figure out my own style of selling. And then I realized I was actually pretty damn good at it, because I was very heart-centered. I learned how to be available to talk about money. I learned how to explore people's objections rather than make decisions for them, right? And so whenever anyone asks how I overcome my own selling fears and how I got good at it, I just decided. I decided that if I want to grow this business, I have to figure out selling, right? And if I stayed stuck in my own junk or my own noise around selling, I wasn't going to have a business. That was just very clear.
Yep. Yep. It would
And so then when
continue
I
to
came
be,
into the
it would
online
kind
space,
of continue to be a hobby.
yeah,
You'd sit there
exactly.
with your shingle out.
Yes, in an
Yeah.
empty office waiting around. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Why aren't they ringing my doorbell?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then when I translated to the online space, that was the part that did come really easy, right? So I was really stuck in translating my own voice. But when I got someone on a sales call, I converted very easily because, again, I just took what I had learned from those challenges into the online space, and selling was a lot easier. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I can actually help other heart-centered people like myself, right, who used to hate selling, learn how to do selling in their own way and be high converting and feel good about it.
Yeah. And I think that's an important piece too, because I hear you say that a few times already, in your own way. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of one of those things that especially floats around in the internet
Mm-hmm.
world that we're in, is that it has to be this way or it
Mm-hmm.
has to be that way. Like there's only one right way.
Yes.
And that's absolutely not true. I know that I talked to somebody earlier and she was having a hard time being visible because she didn't like to do
Mm-hmm.
Facebook Lives. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, you don't have to do Facebook Lives. And
Yes.
she's like, what do you mean I don't have to do Facebook Lives? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't have to do them if you don't feel comfortable. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah, you want to eventually push yourself out of that box, that
Yes.
comfort zone in some
Yes.
way. But in order to get ahead right now, you need to do what you're comfortable with so you can get the ball rolling. So I'm like,
Yes.
well, what do you like to do? And she's like, I like to write. So well, you could do a blog. I
Yes.
could. Like
Yes.
everybody tells me I have to just do live. So, I mean, it's that same
Yes.
thing. It's just
Yes.
applying what's right for you in the
Yes.
moment. And that's not to say
Yes.
3 months or 6 months or a year down the road,
Yes.
it's going to change because it does as we grow.
Yep. Yep.
But
And
yeah,
as we get more comfortable, we always evolve our skill set and, like you said, our comfort level. And yes, I think that is so true. That is the really tailored work I do in my private clients. Is I'm not going to give you a 5-step sales formula because it's just probably not going to work with you, right? I have
yeah,
sales strategy that I teach my clients, but we really tailor it and build it out to their strengths, their way of communicating, their preferences. Because again, that's where it's going to translate.
yeah,
That's where people are really going to feel that connection. And that's when my clients are going to show up and do it because they like it, they enjoy it, it feels like them. It doesn't mean that it's not uncomfortable or stretchy in the beginning,
yeah.
right?
Oh
But
yeah,
there's a difference between something feels stretchy and something actually isn't the right fit for their personality.
right, right.
So
Yeah, I
same thing
read
with selling.
something the other day about it takes, oh my gosh, what was it? I want to say 40 or 50 times, like a huge number of going live before people feel comfortable. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, like I
Yeah.
didn't even, that number is just so much higher than I thought it was going to be. But
Yes.
again, I think it's each individual person. I mean, some
Yes.
people can get right on there and start
For
selling.
sure.
Some people can get on there and do lives, no problem.
Yeah.
It also depends on your personality, the way you were
Yes.
raised, where
Yeah.
you're coming
For
from
sure.
in your other jobs, so many variables. That's why
Yes.
it's so hard to go to a program that isn't, designed specifically for you.
Yes. For that
It's
person, that
important a lot of
industry.
times to do like that one-on-one. So
Yes.
you are getting that attention in the area that you need it.
Yes. Well, and that's the sales mindset piece too, is if we believe selling is a skill, right, which we do,
Yeah.
then we also have to believe it may feel uncomfortable and you may not be that great at it in the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Or you might, right? Just like we know some people can pick up a golf club and be amazing at golf, right? We always
Yeah.
have those unicorns.
Yeah.
But part of the sales mindset work is like being comfortable, not feeling confident, not feeling super great at selling, but trusting that if you stay in it and you continue to have sales conversations, you continue to do the work behind the scenes, you're going to get good and comfortable with selling. You are.
Yeah.
Just like you're going to learn how to play golf really well, or you're going to learn how to cook an amazing lasagna if you keep doing it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, because you keep doing it, you practice,
Mhm.
you learn how to bake, you
Mhm.
learn how to cook, you learn
Mhm.
how to play golf, you
Yes.
just practice at those things. And I laugh because I always tell people, I love to play pool. And they're like, oh, you do? I said, yeah, not that I'm very good at it. But
Yes.
with time, I'll get better. But it's fun. You have to find the fun in things too, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes. And
and
not take yourself so seriously,
yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
being
Exactly.
comfortable. Like I'll tell my clients, if you don't feel really comfortable selling, that's okay. You may not feel comfortable for the first 10 times. That's okay. Let's get comfortable being
Right.
uncomfortable and trusting this process that you are going to get comfortable. You are going to get really effective. But we all have to go through that growing pain season, and we have to be comfortable with it. That's the sales mindset, right? It's
Yeah.
continuing to do the work and knowing that you're
Continuing.
going to come out on the other side.
Putting the trust in it. Putting the
Yeah.
trust in the process. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, what piece of advice would you like to pass along to our listeners?
Yes. Really, really, this is like the $1 million advice that I wish I had in the beginning that has been hard fought for myself, right? Is really, let's not make things personal, right? And in the online space, so what I mean by that is in the online space, for a lot of us, we are our business, right? So unless we're selling products, if we're selling services, we feel like an extension of our business, or our business feels like us, right? There's like that
Yeah.
enmeshment there. And so I don't want to pretend like that's not a real thing. And I talk a lot about you're your best business asset. When you grow your business grows. So I know that connection is valid and it's real. But we also have to remember it's still a business, right? And so if we are not making sales one week, or if we are having some sales calls that didn't go well, or if we're not translating easily online, let's not make that personal. Let's make that, okay, this is a business situation. How can I learn? If I'm not translating online, if that sales call went horribly, what's the lesson I can extract from that? What's the data that I can gather from that? And then how can I test and tweak and adjust going forward? But if we're constantly making everything personal, right? Like that person, or I didn't get any likes on that post, so there's something wrong with me, or those 3 sales calls bombed, so there's something wrong with me. We get stuck and we get in paralysis for so much longer, rather than if we're saying, okay, that didn't work, that sucks, right? But those are business situations, those are business lessons, and how can I continue to tweak and adjust as I move forward? I
Right.
feel like that just
Right.
saves us so much time and energy and stuckness.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's great advice. Excellent. So tell everybody where they can find you. Where are you
Yeah.
hanging out?
Yes, yes, yes. So my website is lisaeatoncoaching.com. My blog goes up there. I'm always posting new resources and videos that I have done. So that's a great spot just to get to know me and get connected. Also, my Facebook group, which you mentioned at the beginning, the Sales Savvy and Successful Entrepreneur, I'm hanging out there every day, almost every day, and I share a lot of free content. We do free trainings. I run challenges. I do a lot of live streams because I love being on video, and that's just a great place just to get to know me. But it's also a really connected community of other women who are very much in support of each other, who are wanting to cheer each other on. So I really have tried to grow a place where people can connect with me. They can consume my content, they can really get to know me, but they can also really connect with others who are on the same journey. And I think that's very important too.
Yeah. Yeah. And feel comfortable doing it. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite communities for that reason. The people in there are great. What you give
Thank
is
you.
wonderful. And it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good to go there. I'm like, oh, what's happening over there today?
Yes. Oh, thank you. That's music to my ears,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because
like the
that's my
little,
vision.
which is super, super tough when you're working, especially online in your home. So
Mm-hmm.
who's there? It's not like you can go to the
Mm-hmm.
water cooler and meet somebody
Right.
or go to the break
Right.
room and have a cup of coffee with them. So you kind of spend a few minutes
Yes.
checking in with your,
Yes.
online business people.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that you feel that way because it's really been my vision from the beginning is to make it a cozy place,
Oh, yeah.
but also a place where people can feel really good sharing their wins
Yeah.
and making connections and promoting their services, right? Because again,
Yeah.
I want things to feel like both, right? Selling is
Yeah.
serving. You can
Yeah.
connect, you can also sell because it all feels good and it's all what we need to be doing.
Yeah. 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 Oh, it's a wonderful place to even practice that. So that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anything else before we close shop here that you
Yeah.
wanted to share with the listeners? Anything else?
Yeah, just that your business needs you to sell, right? I try to say this everywhere that I can, that your business doesn't really care if you're scared to sell or that you don't want to sell or it feels uncomfortable. Your business doesn't care, right? Your business needs you to sell. And even I would say beyond that and more importantly, the people, so whether you sell products or services, the people that can benefit from those, they need you to sell, right? They need you to get your products or your services into their hands in order to make that income and make that impact that you're here to make. So really, this is not something that we get to choose to do or not do, right? Your business really needs you to be comfortable, to learn how to sell, to decide that you're going to learn how to sell in order to grow and to really make the impact that you're here to make in your corner of the world.
Great. Great. Excellent. I love that. Well, I know that at least a couple of people that are joining us today are people that really wanted to hear what you had to say in that sales space because they're new to business. They're
Mhm.
new to selling. So
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and with that, your business needs you to sell, but selling can feel good. You
Yeah.
can get really good at selling. Selling is a really good thing for you, your business, the world at large, right? So to those newer people who may be like, oh my God, my business needs me to sell. This feels awful. Like,
Yeah.
no, right? Selling can feel really good. It's really about figuring out how to do selling in a way that works for you and your personality.
Yeah.
And then, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. I love it. I love it when the magic starts happening.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, thank you to you for joining me today, and thank you to everyone who joined us. Um, I usually do this twice a month, but I'm going on vacation. So
Woo!
this is it for the month of June.
Yes.
But I will be back in July with another episode of Breaking Through Your Brick Walls. So I just want you to remember every day is a good day to be you. You're amazing.
Mhm.
Don't forget it. Now go out and rock your business.
Yes.
Th-
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for having me.